Morning, how are you doing? So, yesterday was a very interesting day. I had a fantastic session, pitch on a ship, and HQS Wellington. It doesn't look much in from the outside. From the inside, it's quite glorious. All traditional wood throughout the ship, and there's pictures of royalty everywhere. But Clydebank, where I was born and brought up, was mentioned. My father was a shop steward in the yards, so he was right in amongst the fighting of its demise. He was impacted by it, a lot of stress, and within the family, we didn't. We seen it all going on, but I mean, it was good times like the QE2 being launched. But I'm also impressed by some of the speakers. William Huckestad II. Is a US Marine. I think he's a Lieutenant Colonel. I'm looking at his business card now. It doesn't say that. But he's, a learned individual, shall we say. Very, very clever man. He's got an MSc in Security Technology, an MSc in Master Management of Technology, and an MSc in Military Strategy. He's been busy learning. So he knows a thing or two about stuff, and he gave his pitch, which was, full on. A couple of people in the audience were a bit challenged by that because it was full on. But my brain was just like, oh bloody hell, I've got a lot of reading to do, a lot. I have one of his books, and I had contacted him about a short while ago, and I had already had some dialogue about his work, but now it's like, okay, I haven't read that. He asked at that time, has anyone read this book? Nobody had put their hand up. Why not? You better read it. So there's a big long reading list. I might take on I won't get it in time for holiday, I don't think. But yeah, that was very, very useful. So two things I want to mention about that. One is related to what my father went through when he was in the shipyards. He had some heart issues, and they call it the silent killer. The silent killer is a bit of cholesterol that's actually in your blood, in your arteries, and they give you statins these days for it. But in those days, my father was, it was quite a long time ago, and it was largely due to stress of going through the fighting in the yards. Just as Margaret Thatcher was starting to crush the industries in the UK. And there was my father's livelihood at the age of, he was younger than me, I think he was about 55, 56, and there's his livelihood coming to an end. So he obviously fought for that, and it paid in terms of his health. But there's a thing, they call it the silent killer because you don't know that it's actually happening. It's something that's already inside you. Now, if you relate that to your adversaries or to people who might be wanting to attack your services, they're already in. So get used to that. It's a silent killer. Now, I mentioned the canary in the coal mine, and what a canary in the coal mine is, as you know, it's a signal. It's almost like a hidden signal, but it's something out there that's small, it's trivial. Doesn't matter if the lights go out on the canary's eyes. Being a humanitarian, obviously that's not really good in the real terms, but that was the days of in the coal mines. The canary that actually, when it smelled a particular gas, it went out, but then you knew we better get out, and you saved a lot of people as a result. Now, I think in the same way that the silent killer is there. And I think you can, in terms of the canary in the coal mine, is if you measure your the pressure of your heart, blood pressure, then you can determine that, you know, if it's too high constantly at rest, then there's a good measure. You know, that's when you need to keep, you know, go and find out a bit more about the silent killer. And when was the last time you took a blood pressure reading? Just checking. So the canary in the coal mine is really what we're looking for in terms of identifying, you know, when that silent killer is actually no longer silent. There's movements, and I guess the canaries are all around, you know, in your small problems you get on a daily basis. You know, and it's about measuring those and monitoring them very carefully to see a trend, a growth, a movement, or a snuffing out of a particular service at a low end, which could trigger, you know, other events happening. So, you know, I took that away from yesterday. The other thing is, and say your adversary is a Scots guy, all right? Not all Scots guys are the bad guys. So when you're saying, let's attack the Scots, let's make sure Scots are destroyed, well, it's just the one guy. It's just the one person, or the one, you know, Nicola Sturgeon, one government. So don't target the whole of the community that you're actually, who you see as your adversaries. You know, because you might have, you know, those are your people who might actually be your customers and your colleagues and allies in other areas. So you've obviously got to be aware of that as well, because we're all human. So, you know, the two people that stood up yesterday's session with William, I felt in that case, you know, they were particularly offended, you know, maybe because of, you know, they took it too personally when it wasn't necessarily aimed at personally. So it's not to say that Scotland won't attack you. We will. So everyone wanted to take over the world, but we don't. We just want to take our country. Anyway, enough analogies on that. I think you get what I mean. So the next couple of things that came up were I bumped into an Italian guy who was an ex-army guy, and he was teaching his 14-year-old about satellites and how to, you know, some hacks in there. I thought that's the way to go. Educate the next generation and you know what you're doing. Another guy I met was from the Cyber Warfare Academy. Fantastic. Just the name intrigued me. I must follow up on that. The cyber. Does that mean you get a badge for you know, passing an exam? I don't know yet, but definitely follow up on that one. There were some pitches from eCentaur, Darktrace, Zero Fox, Synopsis, and Lightspin. Very good pitches. You had to vote for them. I think it was Zero Fox that won, and Lightspin. Might be wrong, but I'll post their photographs because I took the photographs. There was a good pitch from a guy I'm probably going to meet up with in London soon. He did a lot of new thinking on the way to, on ways of working effectively, and great attitudes, and you know, fantastic ideas. Another lady, she was from the north. Actually, quite close to where my wife is from, and I won't say too much about what she said, but there was a few flowery words, shall we say. But she spoke. She was on a mission. She spoke about cybersecurity Stockholm syndrome, which was a great analogy for basically not changing. Remember in your organisation, which I guess like my organisation, we're probably we do need to keep taking in new ideas because we don't know it all, and just be careful if you think you know it all. You got all your bases covered. Are you sure? Who's thinking that? Everything's fine. Nothing to see here, folks. No, there's probably still more we can learn. I'm of a certain age. I'm learning every day. Another guy again. You learn something new every day. Do you talk about in your organisation? Have a look, see if you talk about diversity and inclusion in that order. And if you do, you're probably wrong. It should be the other way around. Inclusion and diversity. Because if you include people, diversity will naturally follow.